I am not an architect. I'm not. Maybe Partrick Tuohey can pretend to be one, but I am just more confused by the day on what the heck the Royals are trying to do. This latest plan is Washington Square Park, which, Patrick, as I saw yesterday, is about 5 acres. And meantime, you look at the East Village site that they were looking at. That was 37, I believe. The Crossroads proposed site was 17 acres. So now we're looking at 5 acres right outside of Crown Center and Union Station.
I don't know that the Royals have come out and said anything particular about this location. They're probably happy to have people talking about them.
Yes.
And maybe just stringing on the excitement of a downtown park somewhere, anywhere. I don't know enough to know if this footprint would work. But I see the graphic renderings.
Yeah.
And I think, sometimes in Kansas City, that just drives the discussion. The airport, they show us pretty pictures, which, by the way, what they show us in the pictures never comes to fruition. The Arrowhead redesign, we get these pretty pictures. It's sort of like some people think that's half the argument. If you can just show people a graphic rendering, then we'll get a percentage of the vote. But it doesn't mean anything. And so all of this, frankly, to me, is just a waste of time until they come forward with what their ask is. What's the proposal?
Well, did you see, too, in this proposal, and you're right, the Royals haven't proposed it, but it's gotten talked about, how they would make this theoretical stadium work at Washington Square Park is 5,000 to 7,000 people taking the streetcar.
Yeah, I don't.
Are you freaking kidding me?
I don't see that happening. And weren't there problems with the streetcar last time we had a big event because they stopped running or they couldn't run?
Yeah, they didn't run for the Super Bowl parade. A couple of years ago, I think it was.
Again, I don't envy anybody trying to figure this out, but it doesn't seem that anyone's trying to figure it out, at least publicly. It's just hush-hush. These pictures will show up. Washington Park maybe is the flavor of the month now. Who knows? In another month, maybe they'll figure out if they tear down, a burger joint, they can put a ballpark on a street corner. I don't know, but until the Royals come forward and say this is our ask of the city and the county and the state, this is all just a playtime. It's not serious.
Well, then this week, too, the Jackson County legislature had a chance to try to put a sales tax on the ballot, reducing the 3/8 cent sales tax to a 1/4 cent, all going to the Chiefs, 20 years instead of 30 or 40 years. And the votes aren't there, and Frank White wouldn't have signed it anyway, so they had to have enough votes to override a veto, and that didn't happen either.
And one piece I read said that maybe the team and the sports authority weren't fans of this approach. So it may have been the one or two legislators kind of getting out over their skis with an idea that nobody liked. I don't know.
Yeah.
But, I think your analysis is right. It wouldn't have gone anywhere. The votes weren't there. And if the team wasn't thrilled with it, then I don't know why it even made it on the docket.
But I think it would have passed.
I think people...
They would have
be
said,
okay if the Chiefs said we want to stay at Arrowhead, we've got these silly renovations we want to do, whatever they showed us last time, I think people would be happy with that. I think the sticking point in all of this is the Royals wanting to move downtown and tear down Kaufman and not giving us any details. I think the Chiefs were dragged into that. But that's what defeated it. There is no ill will with the Chiefs. It is really whatever cockamamie scheme the Royals are coming up with, the details of which we still don't know.
Yeah.
4 months after the April 2 vote, they are still looking at locations. I mean, good Lord. If there's any evidence that the April 2 location was premature and should have never been on the ballot, it's what we see right now, which is they can't make up their mind.
I just wonder how much trust there is or how much trust has been lost between Mayor Lucas, the teams, how they view him after kind of a tepid endorsement. Then it gets blown out. I mean, apparently the Crossroads idea was in large part his or the city's. I mean, I don't think there's a lot of love lost there.
Well, there shouldn't be. This thing lost by such a big margin from so many different sectors. It lost every part of the county. It lost every part of the city that had a chance to vote on it. There should be long knives out for each other because this was an absolute abortion of an election.
Yeah.
And so I would like to think that. But how they patch it up and move forward, I have no idea.
It's always coming down to the money. And hey, if you're the Royals, get something on the ballot. You're in first place this morning now. Let's go.
Right, exactly.
Can they get it on the ballot for like next Tuesday or something?
Your goodwill is not going to get any better than right now.
Let's go. First place. Okay. Meantime, speaking of things happening in Kansas City, Partrick Tuohey with the Show Me Institute. Kansas City Public Schools wants $500 million for building improvements. This is going to be on the ballot next year. It's not a this year thing, but you're already getting some of the propaganda rollout here on this $424 million ask.
Yeah.
This despite the fact that enrollment's down, academic performance is lacking, but as always, more money is going to fix it, right?
They always want more. So,
yes.
People who live in Kansas City and Jackson County have been hearing about the Kansas City School District's inability to perform for decades now. And Kansas City School District has an incredible story of at one point spending truckloads of money on education due to lawsuits and court rulings, and yet still could never get the job done. They are down from a peak of, I think, 75,000 students years ago to 13,000 now. They spend $22,000 per pupil per year. And
wait, there's only 13,000 kids in the school district?
Just over, yeah.
Wow. Okay, sorry, continue.
That's K through 12.
Yes.
And by the way, I found found this out by going to moschoolratings.org, which is a Show Me Institute website, and it'll talk about not just the Kansas City Public School District, but all of them in the state. You can compare them, see what they're spending per pupil.
So this is $33,000 a student on these upgrades.
I haven't done that.
$424 million divided by 13,000. That's $32,615.
You could just pay for them to go to a private school.
Yeah.
And, everybody would be better off.
Mm-hmm.
The Kansas City School District owns so much property it isn't using. Years ago, there were all these fights over getting the school district to try to tear down old schools or sell them to charter schools. But they have all this old property. There is plenty they can do. If they think they need more money, there's plenty they can do to streamline their processes, sell old property before they need to come to taxpayers. As you said, this isn't coming to the ballot until next year, but it's going to be and should be an uphill climb for them. Mm-hmm. They've got plenty of money. They have an embarrassment of riches there. They just don't know how to spend it. And they talk about buildings, but look, your job is to educate children. You cannot do that. And don't tell me that you need more buildings to do that, because I went to a Catholic elementary school that had almost no resources. We were not allowed to play on the grass. We had to play on the blacktop, the parking lot.
Why? They don't want you ruining the grass?
I think it's just a universal thing with Catholic schools.
Well, you're right. You're right. My wife
pay on
went
the
to
pavement.
one.
Yeah.
Yes. I mean, she talks all the time. Anytime the girls get a skinned knee, she's like, oh, that was me back in elementary school. You're right.
So it's not resources. It's quality of teachers. It's motivations of parents and families. And if you don't have that, all the money in the world isn't going to fix it. And so that's what we need to focus on. But, putting another $400 million down the toilet on a institution that we know can't get the job done is a fool's errand. But I guess if you work in the education complex, you just ask for money whenever you can. And by the way, some of the reporting I've heard on this has been really, unfortunately, unintentionally misleading. I read a story on KCUR the other day that failed to mention that the reason why the levy for the Kansas City Public School District hasn't gone up in decades is because they are exempted from the Hancock Amendment. Normally, and I'll keep this brief, when property taxes go up, school districts and libraries have to reduce their levy so that a property tax increase isn't a windfall to them.
Yes.
Because it would be considered a tax increase without a vote.
Yes.
So when property taxes go up, levies come down, with the exception of the Kansas City Public School District, which is the only school district in the state that is allowed to keep whatever windfall is. And just this year and last year, when property taxes went up, the Kansas City Public School District decided, we're going to keep that money. They are making money hand over fist. They are just failing to do anything effective with it. Giving them more money is foolish.
What did KCUR write? 'Cause I just like to rag on them, so tell me what they wrote.
So KCUR just said, they haven't had a levy increase for however many years, as if that means that they're losing money or their income hasn't gone up. Their income has gone up because they don't need a levy increase to see more money. The levy stays where it is, but when the assessment goes up, they reap a windfall.
They reap a windfall when everyone's home goes up every 2 years in Kansas City. they're getting more money.
That they're getting more money, and that is barred everywhere else in the state because it is kind of a backdoor tax increase. The KCUR also reported, well, they haven't seen a bond since 1998 or something like that. Well, they haven't needed it because they've been flush with cash. So we're going to hear all these arguments, and maybe if you're a reporter in their 20s or you're new to Kansas City, you don't know to report that kind of context. Mm-hmm. But ultimately, they spend $22,000 per student right now. Like you said, it'll be over $30,000 this ask for the students they teach. They've clearly not demonstrated that they know what to do with the money. So I am very skeptical of their ask. I would love to know what are their unused assets right now that they could just sell, and how much money would that raise?
That's a great question. And I know you're going to be on it, Partrick Tuohey, because KCUR is not going to be on it.
No,
they're too busy carrying the water.
Not. And that's kind of the disappointment of the media in Kansas City. And it's not necessarily the fault of, evil intentions or whatever. It's just the nature of the industry. There aren't enough reporters to write about it. There isn't enough interest from people to learn about it. So it's really tough.
And they're a bunch of left-wing hacks. Just say it like it is, man.
There is some of that, but part of it is our fault. If we demanded thorough local news reporting, there would be a market for it. But I think too often we get caught up in national and maybe even state stuff and don't read about what's going on in our neighborhood.
That's fair. Partrick Tuohey, Show Me Institute. Well done, sir.
Thank you very much.
All right.